Hi, my name is Heather Feather. I am the owner of Rare Bird Medicine, and today I wanted to talk about cleanliness is next to godliness. This may be a statement you've heard before. I certainly have, and I was always like, that's weird. Those are weird. That's a weird choice to put those words together. Like, you know, so it's godly. God's up there vacuuming the clouds. What are we talking about? I never really kind of understood that statement. But if we think about God as an archetype, if we think about archetypal God, which would be, if we're not dealing with dogma, it would be the concept of intelligence. You know, really fundamentally, when we're asking the question, is there a God or not? For me, I'm like, is there love or not? Prove it to me with your science. So you can say, we can't prove there's a God, but you also can't prove to me the location of love, the weight of love, so there's lots of things you can't prove. So that's not a justifiable argument. But I would say, and the concept of spirit or having like a unified spirit or a God, fundamentally what we're talking about is a divine intelligence. Is there a divine intelligence that put the Fibonacci sequence in things that cause male seahorses to carry the babies and peacocks and goats to sleep in trees and, sacred geometry and mathematics back of the universe? Is there some level of directing intelligence beyond my tiny little ego that thinks it's superior and can figure everything out? Don't worry, put it under a microscope, I know everything. Bless it, bless it, bless it, bless it. But, is there something back of the design that indicates an intelligence higher than mine? And to me, I've always felt if there is an intelligence back of the design higher than mine, makes sense, because there's tons of things here that I'm not responsible for. For example, a seed becoming an oak tree, and the intelligence in that seed. I didn't make that happen. The cosmology, I didn't make that happen. Black holes, I didn't make that happen. But if there is, something back of this design, it certainly would be wiser than I, and it would have less ego. It's not going to have all this ego. So when we say cleanliness is next to godliness, we're talking about intelligence. We're talking about something that is intelligent enough to create a system that has infinite free will for expression, and is wise enough to not intervene in that free expression, otherwise it wouldn't be free, and that it expresses diversely and expresses mathematically with great genius. And so we're equating this cleanliness as being next to this thing called godliness or divine intelligence. Wow, that's a big thing. And so I think that the value of this, I grew up spending a lot of time with my grandmother. She was very clear she was to be called a grandmother. She was an intense lady. And she was a doll hoarder, really fundamentally. She had dolls all throughout it, glass cases filled with dolls. And my aunt is a phenomenal doll maker. And as her mother, I'm sure she was supporting that, but she got really into dolls. But as a little girl, it was very clear we were not to touch the dolls. And she's this Sicilian woman, and she would often cook and clean and have us clean. As I got older, I was like, wow, I have some really intense OCD patterns. I've been in one for a long time, but in the past couple of days, I've been really deeply in one because I'm like, let me rearrange my entire house, let me clean everything, and sometimes it just gets activated. It can get activated around the concept of being around others or sharing my space with others. It's usually pretty much there anyhow. What I can say is I always kind of felt like it was a bit of a burden. And so for some of you, I would say your cleanliness is next to godliness. You need to turn the volume down a little bit on it. You've got it at 1,000 or 100. You need that at like a 50. We're always trying to walk in balance. For me, cleanliness is next to godliness is how I live. I always have a clean car, pretty much. There's moments, of course, where I'm pulling things out of the car or I need to vacuum it. There's always dust gathering in this realm. But, I keep a clean house. I go to bed with a clean sink. I maintain a clean area for myself. So for me, that statement, for me to come into balance is about reining it in a little bit. Heather, you don't need to do the dishes 7 times a day, because that's ineffective. It does help to go to bed knowing that you have a clean kitchen and wake up knowing that you have a clean kitchen to go in to make breakfast. But rein it in, sister, because it's inefficient, it's ineffectual, especially as I'm aging and time is collapsing on me. Each year, time collapses. I have less of it because I'm that much closer to death. It doesn't make sense for me to wash the dishes 7 times because I'm like, there's dishes in the sink. There's dishes in the sink. So it's like, let that go. Let's focus up, get some work done, and let's do dishes at the end of the day. So for some of us, we need to dial this back. We've already gained mastery in it, and then we've maybe stepped into excess with it. But for a lot of two-leggeds, it would behoove the individual to step into this practice of recognizing that cleanliness is an equivalent to divine intelligence, to exalted intelligence, exalted love, and that's because the way we treat the outer is indicative and a reflection of how we treat the inner. So I'm pretty intense with cleanliness of my life, and I'm pretty intense with Heather, and I need to soften on that. So it's a wonderful reflecting system. Marianne Williamson, who I would say is one of the foremost experts on A Course in Miracles. A Course in Miracles was published by the Foundation for Inner Peace, and it is a book written by a woman named Helen Schucman. It was really written so that she wouldn't get recognition for this. It is believed that Yeshua ben Joseph, Jesus the Christed One, was channeled through Helen Schucman. And Helen Schucman considered herself atheistic in belief. She was raised with Judaism, but she had become a psychology professor and really considered herself atheistic as far as this topic of God. And just didn't relate to it. But she started hearing a voice, and that voice started to say, "This is A Course in Miracles, please take notes. This is A Course in Miracles, please take notes." And she goes to her friend, Bill Thetford, and he's a psychology professor there too at the university. And she's like, "I think I'm going crazy." She told him about the experience, and he said, "Well, next time it happens, take notes, and then bring me the notes, and then we'll see. I'll look at it with you." So she started writing this channeled text called A Course in Miracles as a channeled message from Jesus the Christed One. And it was a second coming clarification of like, hey, this is what I was saying, you guys. This is what I was talking about. A lot of you missed the message. Let me clarify for you. And she wrote a phenomenal text, I want to say 700 plus pages long. Then she wrote a workbook, 365 lessons, one for each day of the year. Then she wrote a manual for teachers. And it's very clearly described in the text. This is never to become a church. This is never to be, you can have groups and talk about it, but this is never a financial exchange system situation. So it was just something that was channeled and is offered to humanity. And fundamentally what it is an ego deconstruction system. It's about breaking down that ego. Something we could probably all use. And I found it to be quite powerful. And so I used to listen to Marianne Williamson. I've studied it for 20 plus years with my beloved friend Brandy. And we used to teach on it. And one of the things, we were listening to Marianne Williamson, who recently ran for office. She's getting more into politics now, but she's spoken and written many, many books around A Course in Miracles. She said, I want you to think about if you want a new car. Let's say you want a new car. I want a new car. I want a better car. I want this type of car, but I have this type of car. And you're trashing your car. And it's full of junk, and you're not taking care of it, and you're not cleaning it, and you're not being a steward of it. Why? What is the motivation and impetus in the universe for you to have more when you're not currently being a steward of what you're given? Many shamans would say, in order to receive, you must give. You have to give first in order to receive. Nightmares on Wax does a phenomenal song called Back to Nature and a phenomenal video on it. And that's one of the things that they say in there. In order to receive, you have to give first. You have to give back. You have to give to the Mother Earth. So every object you own used products. It consumed resources. And if you want more, I need more. I want better. I want different. I want the thing that has the label that everyone likes that appeases the ego. If you want more, then you should presently be a steward of what you have. Are you being a steward of your vessel? Are you being a steward of your star player? I can tell you, it's been my experience that often those that are not being a steward of the outer are not being a steward of the inner. And I've spoken of my own learning on this topic because my volume's at like 100, 1,000. And so I'm not being a steward of myself by allowing myself to take breaks and not always be producing and bearing fruit and cleaning. But in the same vein, it's like, if you're trashing your inner temple, if you're trashing yourself, if you're talking ugly to you, if you're being a bully to you, if you're doing things on the inner that are trashing the self, you'll find you have a messy car and a messy home. And so the reason cleanliness is next to godliness is not because your stuff should be clean and it should look nice and be a good hostess. It's not for that. It's because the outer is a reflection of the inner. If you want ease, grace, and simplicity in here, then seek ease, grace, and simplicity out there. And out there, your home, your car, which are in universal language of mind and dream symbology, are extensions of the body, then you would want to honor those temples that you walk and drive in. You would want to give yourself the freedom of really enjoying your space, enjoying your inner space and enjoying your outer space. Fun. That sounds celestial. But I mean, so they say, and they've done studies, like if you make your bed every day, it is going to affect the quality of your attitude and the way you feel throughout the day. It will actually improve your mood, enhance your attitude. Just like if you dress in a nice way and you feel better, you feel more confident because you're being a steward and you're caring for. So I can tell you, it's always a gift to me to wake up in the morning and know my house is clean. I don't feel like, because what happens is your mind is tracking that. I got all that laundry over there, I got that junk, that food's probably drawing roaches. That's, there's all this objects in this mess and you're tracking it and you're walking around in it. And why, beloved you, why, sacred temple of a two-legged? Why should you walk around in filth? Why? Now, there are life experiences, certainly, throughout the annals of time. Time is an illusion, but the concept of time and time experiences, there are times where people really, literally have lived in filth. And so you have opportunity now to be a steward really easily of your temple. And it doesn't have to take a ton of time. Yeah, if your car is currently a total mess and your house is currently a total mess, maybe you want to dedicate one day to go, halfway clean out your car and then another day the next week to finish cleaning it out and vacuuming it. Sure. But part of what happens is two-leggeds get overwhelmed. Like, I can't get into clean. Every room is messy. Like, what are you talking about, Heather? Come to my, good luck, girl. It's like, you should see this place. And it's like, okay, I would say start with the room that is most important to you. What do you do? Do you cook a lot? Do you spend a lot of time in the kitchen? Do you really enjoy being in your bedroom and reading a book? And start with one room. You can watch Marie Kondo too. She'll have you do it with her method, which is by category. But the way I've always done it is I start with one room. What room would it feel best to me to have clean today? Oh, the living room would feel really good because that's where my computer is. That's where I do my work. I will feel clearer if I get that cleaned and organized. And once you have everything clean, it's not this running story in the backdrop of your consciousness about this thing you need to get to. And it's not this constant reflection of how little you matter, because clearly you don't matter, you get to live in filth. You deserve to have a life worth living. You deserve to enjoy your life. So part of how we step into a practice that we're not currently practicing is step by step. As the shaman I apprenticed with once told me, Heather, stop trying to jump from the bottom of the mountain to the top of the mountain. Take a couple steps, stop, look around, see your progress. Wow, look, I did that. So we just start with a little bit. Can you take an area today and clean that area? Can you pull everything out of the fridge, wipe out the fridge, wipe out the freezer, put everything back in an organized way that feels good? Next week, can you pick the pantry? Just start a little bit, because there is great intelligence in offering yourself a clean, clear space. It gives one a clean, clear mind to operate in the timeline. Go to rarebirdmedicine.com, click on the classes link. Lots of classes coming up there. You can always subscribe on YouTube under Rare Bird Medicine. Blessed be.